I am here with Andy Rader, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist located in Florence, Kentucky, technically Oak Brook. And I've been talking with Andy. He's a friend of mine, and I've had a chance to chat with him over the years. And I asked him to share with us today his theory on emotional wavelength. Did I get that right?
Yeah. Basically, what I see in terms of what people end up experiencing emotionally and the ways that they suppress and or express those emotions.
If you had a nugget of advice for anyone watching, what would it be?
It would absolutely be to allow yourself to fully experience and express emotions. I have to have this faith in myself that every time that I'm up, I am going to go down. I know that, but I'm going to end up going back up again. And in the same way that I need to experience and express my own emotions, I need to allow others and encourage others to experience and express their emotions and have the same trust that I have in myself that says every time that I go down, I'm going to go back up. And same thing with the other person that you're in a relationship with. Every time they go down, they're going to come back up, and there's nothing to be scared of when they're experiencing and expressing those other emotions. So, I'm going to create this emotional wavelength. 5, 10, -10. And I'm going to, let's say that normal life is basically life between the fives. So I have my good days and my bad days, my good weeks or my bad weeks, however it may be. Well, I'm going to pick especially on men with this one. This does apply with women sometimes, but especially with men. What we end up realizing is that I really like to be at this +5, but I really don't like to be at this -5. So you know what? If I turn on the game, I can distract myself, and instead of feeling that -5, now I feel -4. So that that definitely helps in the moment. But what we don't realize is that thinking systemically, systems theory says that there has to be balance. And it applies to the natural world and to our relationships and to our emotions. And where I would love to live life at a +7 all the time, that's just completely impossible. So what he doesn't realize is that when he trims this off and turns it into a -4, well, trim a little off the bottom, trim a little off the top, and all of a sudden, he's living life in between the 4s. So then, what he realizes next is, well, you know what? If I turn on the game and I feel a little bit better, if I have a beer with the game, I can turn that -4 into a -3. But once again, trim a little off the bottom, trim a little off the top, and all of a sudden, now we're living life between the 3s. Well, that trimming process continues until we get to this place where we end up living these very, very flat, very emotionally void kind of lives where, so many men will just come in and they'll say, I'm pretty easy to get along with. I never really get too high, never get too low. It's just, I'm just chill. And he feels great about that and thinks that that's the ultimate answer to life. But what he also doesn't realize is that, back to systems theory, where there's all this suppression that ends up taking place, there has to be, there's going to be an explosion of some kind. So we have these spikes, these extreme spikes, and for men, socially acceptable ways to express positive emotion come in the form of sports and sex. So thinking about sports specifically, this is where a wife she'll just be frustrated with her husband all week long because she can't really get anything out of him, and then all of a sudden she opens up the bathroom door on Saturday morning to find that he's shaved his entire body and has painted it two opposing colors, and he proceeds to go down to the stadium and scream his face off for the next 4 hours. And so his team recovers a fumble, and he's like, he bursts into tears immediately. And she's sitting there looking at him the entire time. She's like, my cat died this week and I couldn't get a single thing out of you, but now all of a sudden your team recovers a fumble and you're in tears. What the hell? So we get these extreme spikes in that direction, and then we get these extreme spikes in the opposite direction. And for men, socially acceptable ways to express this feeling comes in the form of anger, frequently not towards our wives because we're too scared to, but typically towards traffic, or the kids, or sports. So this is where when his team loses or they don't get the fumble, he throws the remote through the wall and blows gasket in that direction. So I see this pattern of suppression and explosions on a very regular basis. And my contention is that this is not really living. William Wallace in Braveheart, when he said, "All men die, but not every man really lives." I love that quote, and it's on my wall back here. And my contention is that this life of suppression and explosions, that's not really living. Instead, I want to really learn how to stretch these lines out and live a really full emotional life. So, when my ship is on top of the wave, I want to catch that wave and ride it out for all that it's worth, and really enjoy that. Now, I also want to keep in mind that I know that at some point in time I'm going to be down here, but I've got almost 43 years of life experience that tell me that every single time that I end up down here, I end up back on top again. And when I feel that my ship is going down, heading down into the swell, so many people, what they want to do is they want to pull out their paddles and start rowing backwards and try to get back up here on top. But the longer they paddle backwards, the deeper and darker this swell out here in front of them is getting, and it's going to suck them in at some point in time. So instead of pulling out their paddles and rowing backwards, I'd rather strap an outboard motor on this thing and power into it and not be afraid of the pain that's going to come here, because, like I said, I've got nearly 43 years of experience that says that every time that I go down, I end up going up again. The other way that I like to think about this, and a buddy told me this one time, he made a comment to me that, Andy, you ever realize that everybody wants to have all these mountaintop experiences, but have you ever noticed that there's no growth above the tree line? I was like, oh, that's good. That's really good. And he was exactly right. The times in my life where I experience the most life growth isn't when I'm up on top of the mountain and I'm feeling great and everything's good. It's when I'm down in the valley where the soil is deep and dark and rich, and I come to the end of myself and realize that I have to reach out to God and to others for help in those times, and I end up learning so much, and there's just so much growth that takes place down there. So why in the world would I be afraid to go to that place? So yeah, the world doesn't need any more nice guys. The world needs passionate men. I feel like this experience of living a full emotional life where I allow myself to experience and express emotions, that's this practice of living life between the fives that ends up being so much better for myself and my relationships around me.